Before we formally start, allow us to read our Zoom guidelines. Number 1, once inside the Zoom video conference room, change your display name into your full name and the organization you are associated with.
Number 2, make sure to mute your microphone upon entering.
Number 3, the comment, chat box, Q&A section will only be used for asking questions, sharing insights regarding the talk and other related matters. Strictly no commenting unnecessary, rude, and offensive statements.
And lastly, we shall have a group photo at the end of the webinar. We request everyone to turn their cameras on at this stage.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this webinar series organized by the Ateneo Public Interest and Legal Advocacy Center in partnership with Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and Samahan ng mga Mag-aaral ng Agham Pampulitika ng Ateneo, the official academic organization of the Political Science and History Department. I am one of your hosts. I am Christine Claire Tar, the Student Relations Officer of SAMAPULA, and I am with
Dasa Caballero, the Assistant Director of SAMAPULA Speakers Bureau. The pandemic will not hinder us from making opportunities for growth and development. Aside from our Zoom link, We are also live on Facebook, so you can invite your friends to tune into the Facebook page of Davao Chronicles.
Once again, may we remind everyone to please follow our Zoom guidelines to ensure the smooth flow of our program.
To officially start our event, may I request everyone to be on their prayer disposition as we present the opening prayer. This will be followed by the singing of the national anthem. May we also remind everyone to sit up straight and put our right hand on the left side of our chest as a sign of respect while we're singing the national anthem.
O one God of all nations, you created the earth and the cosmos, and their differences, beauty, and frailty. The various cultures and religions seek you, the origin of all things. You want each to be for all, not a threat, but a blessing. Lead us to where it is truly you who reign over us, with your love and your compassion. We come to you because you are our God, moving in our hearts in the geniuses of our different religions. You are our Father. You are our Allah. You are our Manama. Magbabaya, Diwata, Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. You call us to peace. God of all truth and goodness, bless us as we gather here at the Ateneo de Davao University. May we be strengthened in mind and heart to pursue what you inspire, with insight and deliberation, that our world may advance in true wisdom and justice for all. Amen.
Good afternoon once again, and welcome to our second webinar with the topic Impact of the Pandemic to Local Youth Development.
At this juncture, let us hear the opening message by the Country Director of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Dr. Stefan Jost.
Good afternoon. First of all, on behalf of the Konrad Adenauer Foundation, welcome all of you to our first of several events in the upcoming weeks, Youth Responses to the Challenges of the New Normal. The Konrad Adenauer Foundation is a German political foundation with a Christian democratic orientation. We are working in 107 offices all over the world with national and regional programs. Our foundation has started working in the Philippines, one of our first country offices in Asia, since 1964. And for over 50 years now, our work in the country has focused on strengthening democracy, human rights, rule of law, the promotion of social market economy as an inclusive economic system, institutional and political reform, and peace and development in Mindanao. Another focus of our work, including our Philippines, is questions of international relations and security policy. Philippines is considered to be a young with 37.5 million, or nearly 35% of the total Philippine population are aged between 15 and 34 years old. During the midterm election in May 2019, 31% of the total voters are coming from 29 years old age group. What does this mean? You, as a segment of the population, are important and have the capacity to determine the future of the nation. With this in mind, at the Adenauer Foundation, we are working together with our partners to ensure that you have the capacity to engage in the process of developing public opinion through seminars and workshops, including this one. We are hoping that the learnings you will take out from the online series will be helpful to you someday as future decision makers. The impact of the COVID-19 pandemic affects us all and risks reversing the decades of progress against poverty and exacerbating already high levels of inequality within countries. For young people, school closure had an adverse effect on their learnings and group essential to their social and behavioral development. While digital technology made the continuation of education possible, young people are facing uncertainties as they confront the new reality with myriad physical and mental distractions. In the context of the Philippines, inequality of access to continuity and inaccessibility to information and communication technology hinders the effective access to remote learning arrangement of young Filipinos. Young people are also severely affected in terms of their employment and disposable income. Low-paid and temporary employment in sectors most severely affected by the crisis, for example, restaurants, hotels, gig industry, are often held by young people who are now facing a higher risk of job and income loss. In the face of the loss or drop in income, young people are more likely to fall into poverty as they have fewer savings to fall back on. In addition, as illustrated by previous economic shocks, young people graduating in times of crisis will find it more difficult to find decent jobs and income, which are likely to delay their path to financial independence. This is one of the tens of issues surrounding the youth today. On the bright side, you have probably heard of stories of young people demonstrating their continued leadership in their own communities in times of the pandemic. You may have seen in the television and the social media, or even a friend or a schoolmate of yours that ran an online donation campaign to raise funds for the early stage of lockdown, catches other school supply needed as schools are transitioning to online. Young people are also running awareness and mental health campaigns, hand-washing campaigns, volunteering to support elderly population, and making contributions for scientists, entrepreneurs, and innovators. More importantly, we have asked your leaders to be accountable, advocating for free testing, reliable information, paid sick leaves, and investments in science and research. And these are huge roles embraced by you, the young population, extending your assistance to your fellow countrymen. The task is gigantic responsibility, but you took a great leap to mark your position in the communities. As we take our steps gradually in overcoming the pandemic, you can take a look back on your experiences during the pandemic and draw a sense of purpose, solidarity, a new perspective that will be valuable in your contribution in improving and protecting the health of your communities and your country and a larger context. The world cannot afford a lost generation of youth their lives set back by COVID-19 and their voices stifled by a lack of participation. These were the words by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Having a young population such as your country should be harnessed and made you a part of finding solutions, not only addressing COVID-19 pandemic and future health crises, but also other complex issues. You, as future decision makers of your country, should be recognized, engaged, and treated as equal partners in pursuing the ideals of your nation. These are just some of the reasons why we at CASA are happy to support this valuable initiative of the Ateneo de Davao University. Therefore, my heartfelt thanks to Father Joel Tabora, President of Ateneo de Davao University, Attorney Romeo Cavarde Jr., Chairperson of the Ateneo Public Interest and Legal Advocacy Council, and Ms. Techi Akin, who worked out this project and got it off the ground. And a big thank you to Jerome Jogno, Program Manager in the CAS Philippines office, who was also very committed to supporting this project. I wish all of us successful discussions in the coming weeks and look forward to today's start. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stefan Jost. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of the different sectors in our community. We have from the Academe, Ateneo de Davao University, University Research Council, CREATE, School of Arts and Sciences, SAMAPULA, GACP, Samahan, SAS. We also have Davao del Norte State College, Bukidnon State University, Supreme Student Government Federation, Mintal Comprehensive High School, Supreme Student Government, St. Louis University, University of Antique, Daniel R. Aguinaldo National High School, Samahan na Mag-aaral ng Politika or SMP of University of Mindanao, Department of Education Region 11, Gorgonio Tajo Senior National High School, Davao City National High School, Western Mindanao State University, and Ifugao State University.
We also have from our international and foreign institutions, the USAID Reach Health and Marilac Center from USA.
Other non-governmental organizations and private institutions, we have Turil Bagobo Tagabawa Ancestral Domain Association, National Youth Parliament of Leaders, XCUS Society, FPOP Youth Core Group, DBA Teen Tambayan Santo Tomas, Piles Tagos, Southern Philippines Medical Center, Voice of the Youth Network, JCI Zamboanga, Young Advocates for SRHR, FPOP Davao Youth Core Group, Mindanao AIDS Advocates Association Incorporated, Tambayan, CDSA, TSIS, Gatas LGBT Group, Barangay Talomo Proper, Rotaract Club of Talakudong, DBA Marilac Center, PLGMI, and Adolescent Reproductive Peer Educators Club.
And lastly, coming from our governmental institutions, Davao City Population Division, DSWD City Health Office, Davao City Sangguniang Kabataan, Gender and Development Focal Point Person Cluster 3, Department of Education, Purok Youth Leaders, Philippine National Police, Department of Foreign Affairs, City Health Office of Davao City Population Division, and lastly, DSWD.
Thank you so much for your tireless participation. I am in awe of the number of participants that we have today. Hopefully, we keep this number until the end of our webinar.
I agree. I hope that we can learn more about how we can empower the youth to participate in movements that mitigate the impact of this pandemic. Now we will present a short video that talks about the impact of COVID-19 to the world as an introduction.
This webinar aims to create a platform for discussion on the challenges that the youth face in this pandemic, not just in the Davao region, but also across the nation. This activity also aims to generate strong networks and better collaboration among the youth leaders within and outside the country.
In line with that, to give the overview and the rationale of the event, may we call in Mr. Jeff Y. Fuentes, the City Population Officer of Davao City Health Office.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Since the onset of the pandemic, more than 70% of youth who study or combine study with work have been adversely affected by the closing of schools, universities, and training centers. According to an analysis by the International Labor Organization, or ILO. According to the Youth and COVID-19 Impacts on Jobs, Education, Rights, and Mental Well-being report, the impact of the pandemic on young people is systematic, deep, and disproportionate. It has been particularly hard on young women, younger youth, and youth in lower income countries. This is especially true with other SOGIs, whose marginal situation has been severely compounded by their intersectionality with class, ethnicity, and other forms of stratification, and made doubly hard by this pandemic. Of the young people who were either studying or combining study and work before the onset of the crisis, 72% experienced school closures, yet not all were able to transition into online and distance learning. Youths in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, or GIDAs, prior to this pandemic were already sidelined. COVID-19 compounded this status in terms of overall development. Indeed, COVID-19 left 1 in 8 young people without any access to courses, teaching, or training, a situation particularly acute among youth in lower income brackets, and one that serves to underline the sharp digital divide that exists between areas that have less access to the internet, a lack of equipment, and sometimes a lack of space at home. Modular classes highlighted this divide as well. Expecting a parent without experience in formal education to assist their grade 7 child. I cannot help but remember the movie I Am Sam. Nice din siya nga movie, no? Tanaw pod mo. Ayaw lang pod mo palabi kayo og K-pop. Okay? Naman po yung mga BL nga nindot. The pandemic is also inflicting a heavy toll on young workers, destroying their employment, undermining their career prospects. 1 in 6 young people who were employed before the outbreak stopped working altogether. Most notably, younger workers aged 18 to 24 and those in clerical support services, sales and crafts, and related trades. Working hours among employed youth fell by nearly a quarter, and 2 of 5 young people reported a reduction in their income. Young people in lower income countries are the most exposed to reductions in working hours and the contractions in income that results from this. Occupation was found to be the main determinant for how the crisis has affected young people, women, and men. Employed is differently, young women reporting greater losses in productivity compared to young men. The pandemic is inflicting multiple shocks on young people. It is not only destroying their jobs and employment prospects, but also disrupting their education and training and having a serious impact on their mental well-being. This according to Guy Ryder, ILO Director General. The COVID-19 pandemic was undoubtedly triggered detrimental effects on the wellness and mental health of children and young people. The short-term quarantine measures and social distancing turned out to have greater psychological implications for the young population, which contribute to exacerbating other household and individual circumstances including personal safety, prospects of job, and income losses, medical conditions in the household, social connectedness, or trust in other people and institutions. Davao Police data saw an increase in varying types of domestic and gender-based violence, from physical to sexual abuses. The things I have mentioned are just the tip of the iceberg on both short-term and long-term impact of this pandemic to youth development. Our distinguished speakers and reactors will navigate us to their own take of the impact of this pandemic on youth development. May this session enrich our understanding of the varying experiences and viewpoints that may help us in contributing positive action in mitigating the effects of this pandemic. I encourage you to listen and participate actively in the comfort of your chair and at the mercy of the telecom companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff Y. Fuentes. Before we introduce the first speaker, we would like to tell everyone that you can address a question using the question and answer button. Our speakers will try to answer these queries as he goes with his or her discussion. Now, for our first speaker. Our first speaker is a Bachelor of Science in Hotel and Restaurant Management graduate with psychology units. Also a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and currently taking Bachelor of Science in Social Work at the Jose Maria College, Davao City. 2 years and 6 months as a supervisor in a BPO company in Davao City. 2 years as an HR consultant of an engineering firm based in Singapore and the former communications head of the Sangguniang Kabataan Federasyon ng Davao City. Currently working under the City Social Welfare and Development Office or CSWDO for Child and Youth Development Program in Davao City. Please welcome Mr. Emmanuel Navarro Crismas, Child and Youth Development CSWDO.
So ayan, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Good afternoon, maayong udto. First of all, before we proceed with the formal discussion this afternoon, I'd like to congratulate and of course thank the organizer for organizing such event. This is really timely and this is really vital for the improvement, for the development of our young people. So hopefully gaya ng sinabi ni ni Sir Jeff kanina na mercy of the telecom companies, sana hindi tayo magka-issue doon sa ating internet connection, and then we can continually listen and participate on our discussion this afternoon. So let me share you my screen. All right. Okay. So I hope everyone already took their lunch, no? Nakapag-lunch naman siguro lahat-lahat. So kasi medyo madugo yung discussion natin this afternoon, and of course this is really important because we will be discussing issues, how does the pandemic affect or impacted the development of our local youth people. All right. So first question I have in mind, I hope I could interact, no? Kasi nasanay tayo doon sa ways of conducting like seminars or mga ganito where we can interact with our participants. But of course, we will be maximizing the platform that we have currently. So what are the greatest concerns of the youth during pandemic? Ito yung pinaka-question natin. In fact, this question was also asked during the registration, and after collating all the responses from our participants, and of course after the survey, it appears na ang daming issues na nag-raise, no, lumabas based on the survey and then based on the answers of our participants. And we might be asking why these issues arise during this pandemic. It says here that the COVID-19 pandemic has caused significant disruption in the lives of millions of people, including our children and adolescents. We have this youth like the out of school time. Usually this happens during Christmas breaks or summer, like ganito, no? We have the All Souls and All Saints Day out of school time. And during this time, during summer or during semestral break, doon doon kasi usually gumagawa yung mga government at non-government organizations ng mga programs nila. As an example, youth camp, um, sports clinic, and this is actually very essential ecological assets of the disruption during the pandemic may have major impact on youth development pathways. Kasi nga, because of the current situations that we have, of course, hindi na pwedeng mag-sports clinic, hindi na pwedeng mag-youth camp, hindi na pwedeng lumabas ng hindi naman importante. So, this really affect, the development of our youth in this current situation. So based on the surveys and based on the answers of our participants during the registration, ito po yung lumabas na responses of our participants, responses of our youth across the board, no? So nangunguna po yung pinaka-issue ng mental health, which is actually considering this pandemic. Nangunguna po yung mental health issues. Second is the employment, gaya nung sinabi ni Sir Jeff kanina, no, na our youth sectors really was affected on the especially on the employment side. Sumunod po doon yung disposable income, unemployment, of course, that's, this to our partners. And on the fourth rank, pumasok po doon yung problema natin sa edukasyon. Probably this is with the learning modalities that we have, especially we have many students enrolled or kahit na hindi yung mga naka-enrolled na very challenged, no, in terms of internet connection and learning modalities in general. So mental health issues during pandemic increased tremendously, no. Tumaas talaga siya ng sobra-sobra during this pandemic.
Timing lagi ba?
Okay, so it seems like our speakers have some technical difficulties. So while waiting, we would like to remind everyone to please follow our guidelines and to ensure a smooth flow of our program. So let's just wait for our speaker. Okay. So while waiting now, we would like to thank once again our participants who joined us today. From the Academe, from the Ateneo de Davao University, we have the University Research Council or CREATE, School of Arts and
Hello, everyone.
Sciences. Yes po. Yes, sir.
Yes po, sorry for the
You're back.
interruption.
Okay.
Yun lang yung sinabi natin, no. We are really challenged kasi kakaano lang nag-run out dito sa amin. Very unfortunate. But anyways, that will not stop us from continuing our discussion this afternoon. I have the backup internet connection to proceed with the discussion. I apologize for that one. So before we were interrupted earlier, like what I discussed, no, like nung sinabi ko kanina, we have these issues on mental health during pandemic. So as per the survey, psychological impacts of social distancing and quarantine measures of young people, causing stress, anxiety, and loneliness. So bakit ba nangyayari yung mga ganito? Kasi usually yung personality kasi nating mga kabataan, we are outgoing, no? Gusto nating nasa labas tayo, gusto nating mag-participate, no, sa lahat ng mga or sa mga activities natin outside. And because of the guidelines, the protocols, and the measures, quarantine measures that the government imposed, nalilesen yung activities, yung involvement natin sa community, and this is actually contributes to the impact, to the development of our young people. In fact, this was also affirmed by finding the studies conducted showing that young adults ages 18 between 18 to 29 years old experience higher level of distress compared to other age group since the onset of the pandemic. Kasi of course, yung mga kasama natin sa bahay or yung mga people aged 30 years old and above, they are like usually preferred to stay at home, compared to us, compared to those ages between 18 to 29 years old na gustong nasa labas, gustong mag-participate sa mga activities, and gustong makipaghalubilo sa mga kapwa natin na mga kabataan. And that's the reason why they were really affected much compared to those people. So the closures of school affects also the students' mental well-being, as teachers and classmates can provide social and emotional support. So sa school kasi, apart, I mean, I visited many schools here in Davao cities, and they have youth centers, tawag nito youth clinic doon sa mga eskwelahan nila. And this initiative actually helps our student, help the young people well-being, kasi nakakakuha sila ng mga supports from the teachers, from the classmates. And it says here that education professionals also plays an important role in helping detect and report abuses against children. So may mga teachers kasi tayo na trained, saka yung mga classmate natin na trained peer educators na nakaka-detect ng mga problema ng mga kabataan, their classmates, no, if they are experiencing mental health issues or concerns. And the impact of the crisis on the psychosocial and subjective well-being of young people also depends on the household they live in and individual circumstances, such as prospect of job and income losses. Housing quality, isa din sa mga isa din sa mga pinaka-importanting factors during this pandemic, kasi nga may mga iba na nakatira sa hindi naman siya mayaman pero maayos na pamamahay, and the other youth from the community nakatira doon sa very challenged na bahay, and that really affects, that really affects their development. Isa pa diyan is yung the illness or loss of loved ones. Probably they've heard someone like sa kapitbahay nila na COVID positive or namatay dahil sa COVID. That really affects their well-being. And also the presence of existing medical conditions and vulnerable peoples in the house. So lalo pat may mga kasama tayo mga bata like 15 years old and below, and yung mga 65 years old and below, very challenged kasi I have a friend, yung father niya is for dialysis, no, kailangan niya mag-dialysis, but because of this pandemic, very challenged yung situation nila. They cannot really go out anytime they wanted because of the measures, and this really impacted not just the youth but the entire people in the community. So, yung question na gusto kong itanong sa mga participants natin at the moment, kasi of course, no, may mga natural coping mechanism tayo, but how are we definitely coping up with the new normal? So, it says here, may mga quarantines tayo, no, may mga quarantines akong tawag nito, gustong dito. One of which is yung TikTok. I hope everyone nakapag-TikTok na, no? Sana all nakapag-TikTok na kasi hindi ako nakapag-TikTok. Sobrang kabisihan. But anyway, one of the things that really diverts our youth, especially in this time of crisis, in this time of pandemic, is yung pagti-TikTok nila. The TikTok not just help our young people divert their attentions kasi they also uses this platform to educate, to educate their peers, their co youth in recording or nagti-TikTok sila doon sa kung paano ba yung tamang pagsusuot ng mask, yung paghuhugas ng kamay, and encouraging everyone not to go out, no, not to go out, stay at home as much as possible. So this platform actually helped them during the pandemic. Second one is the inflatable swimming pool. Sana no ang lahat ay meron, pero kung wala man, pare-pareho tayo kasi wala din ako inflatable swimming pool. So ayun, isa sa mga pinagkaabalahan ng mga tao during pandemic is yung inflatable pools. Well, wherein they could actually hindi naman celebrate, but they could still continually experience the summer despite this current pandemic. And the third one is yung online foods. Ayun no. So yung iba yung iba nagve-video kung paano lutuin yung paano gumawa ng spaghetti with a twist, yung tawag na to, spaghetti with sardines. Ayun no. So yun yung mga very catchy na mga activities ng mga kabataan or ng mga tao during pandemic. Barter, lumabas din siya. Kasi during this pandemic, nauso din yung no need for money. So as long as you have something at home na hindi mo na magagamit, so people are posting something on Facebook, that they could exchange this for food, for hot dogs, for canned goods, for rice, in exchange to the items that they have at home na hindi na nagagamit. Face app, actually used this once, but I hope everyone also experienced using Face app, no? That's also help us in diverting our minds during this pandemic. And sana all, ito yung pinaka popular talaga, especially yung mga taong super scrolling, on Facebook. Lahat sila nagsasana all kasi nga sana all may inflatable pools, sana all may ganito, ganyan. And this also help us diverting our attentions during this quarantine. The Facebook avatar also, that actually happened during this pandemic. We're changing our Facebook avatars depending on kung ano yung tayo, gusto natin ganun din yung Facebook avatar or characters natin on Facebook. Of course, mga plantito-plantita, ayan yung mga kaangs natin, lahat na super busy in their tawag nito activities sa pagkakaang, sa plantitos-plantitas. And this is really this is actually one of the good thing happened this pandemic kasi nga we are closely reconciling ourselves to the environment, kasi nga this is really in environmental climate issues or climate change is really one of the issues na kinakaharap natin apart from this pandemic. And this pandemic help us out to bring ourselves closer back to the environment. And the last one is mga activities, making our time productive by joining webinars. Ang daming webinars, I really admired youth organizations and youth serving organizations around the countries. Now, despite the challenge of their internet connection, like what happened to me earlier, na nawala yung internet connection ko, but very very commendable yung initiatives ng ating mga youth organizations, non-government, and the government organizations in conducting, in initiating webinars that would help our youth in terms of their development, in terms of productively maximizing their time while they are at home. So I hope these things, itong lahat ng mga na-mention ko, I know na may mga other things pa kayong pinagkakaabalahan sa bahay, but these are the quarantines I've encountered, and I listed down that helps our youth in diverting their attentions, and of course probably then para maiwasan din yung mga mental health issues ng ating mga kabataan. So while the approach of pandemic varies across countries, most government in every countries have implemented social distancing, confinement, and social isolation measures to contain the spread of the virus. So isa sa mga pinaka-problema natin is itong tawag nito approach ng ating government, isa din sa mga naka-apekto is yung pag-implementar nung social distancing. Ayun na nga, social distancing, and no to mass gathering. Compared to last year, ang dami nating ginawang activities sa community, but this time around hindi natin siya magawa kasi nga dun sa security health measures ng ating mga kasama sa community, and this is really this impacted the vulnerable peoples, yung mga kabataan natin most likely because wala nang masyadong activities or wala na talagang face-to-face activities na nangyayari sa ating community. In this context, youth organizations expresses, greatest concern about the impact of COVID-19 on mental health or mental well-being, employment, income loss, disruptions to education, familiar relations, and friendship at the same time, as well as limitation to individual freedom. Kasi hindi na talaga pwedeng lumabas ng basta-basta na lang yung mga kabataan natin sa kani-kanilang mga bahay. Significant share of respondent also expresses concern about access to reliable information. Yun yung pinaka-challenge natin at this very moment kasi nga or during this pandemic, kasi because of the because sa mga ang daming nagpapanik, ang daming tawag nito apektado sa current situation natin. Yung mga iba nagpapalabas ng mga incorrect information which actually misleaded our young people, and that also again added up on the stress level, on the mental health situations of our youth, affecting their development. So sana tayong mga kabataan, kasi nga we are technically inclined, we will be, or hopefully everyone is using our skills in technology in providing information to our peers, to our kapwa kabataan, and to the community, the information that they need to know anything about this COVID-19 and how we could fight, or our fight against this COVID-19. So the second issue, apart from the mental health issues or concerns, response on the surveys and on the response of our participants, isa din sa mga sinagot nila is yung employment and disposable income. Isa din sa mga nakaapekto sa kanila during their development, kasi it is na low paid and temporary employment in sector most severely affected by the crisis. As an example, the restaurant, hotels, and gig industries who are often held by young people. So if you notice, sa mga restaurants, sa mga hotels, sa mga gigs, even yung mga pag-organize ng mga event organizing, kalimitan or most of those employed under this section are coming from our young people, and it says here na 35% of young people ages 15 to 29 years old are employed in low-paid and insecure jobs on average across the country, compared to the 15% of middle-aged employees, 15 to 30, and 16% of older workers aged 51 and above. So pinaka-apektado talaga yung sector ng mga kabataan natin, lalo pat kabataan ang may pinakamaraming populasyon, sa bansa. So they were really affected on the employment, and of course the income that they could get, affecting their entire well-being. So evidence from the beginning of the crisis demonstrated that young people ages 15 to 24 were the group that most affected by the rise in unemployment between February and March. And up until this current, buti na may mga iba na nakabalik na sa mga trabaho, but most of them that were affected, hindi na nakabalik, or yung iba na talaga is nawala na talaga ng trabaho because of the economic challenge ng ating mga business people. In fact, in the face of the loss of or a drop of income, young people are more likely to fall into poverty. Naghihirap na talaga yung mga kabataan natin in terms of providing their needs, their necessities, and of course, some of them is their sustainability, yung pag-support nila sa kanilang mga education, kasi ang dami nating mga working students employed in restaurant, in hotels, na they're really go to work, or nagtatrabaho talaga sila to support their education, and this really affected them tremendously. In addition, as illustrated by the previous economic shocks, young people graduating in times of crisis will find it more difficult to find decent jobs and income, which are likely to delay their path to financial independence. This is really factual, no? Talagang nangyayari ito kasi yung lahat ng mga mostly of most of those who graduated this year had really difficulties in finding decent job. Yung iba nagre-reselling na lang as of the moment. Yung iba nag-a-apply nung work from home. But in terms of in terms of employment security, hindi talaga siya ganun ka-secure, kasi nga especially for work for working at home, na anytime your client can discontinue your contract, and it will really give you a hard time to find another one. So ayun yung mga challenges ng ating mga newly graduate this year. How are the youth coping up with the new normal? Talking about sa usaping employment and income. So ito na naman si quarantines. First nga, yung sinabi ko kanina is yung online selling. Ang daming kabataan, actually, the community is actually doing the online selling. And it is really nice, no, na we are productively using our time to help ourselves and our family. So may mga online selling, reselling, and like what I mentioned earlier, working from home. Ang daming nag-apply ng mga online jobs where they could work on the comfort of their houses. Plantito-plantitas, ang daming nagtatanim, tsaka nagbibenta ng mga plants, no, through online or through social medias. And sana all vlogger. Ang dami nating nagba-vlog, no? Ang dami nating nagba-vlog nung yung mga daily activities nila, yung how they responded to COVID-19, yung anything na lang na maisipan nila, they put it into vlogging. Kasi nga, of course, I believe everyone is aware na talagang nagkakapera sa vlogging if you will put more time and effort on your content, lalo na sa pagpapalike, pagpapasubscribe, talagang magkaka-income ka sa YouTube, sa vlogging. So The third one, this is the third tawag nito, third to the last kinakaharap ng mga kabataan natin during this pandemic is the disruption in access to education. So the closure of schools and universities has affected more than 1.5 billion children and youth worldwide and has significantly changed how the youth and children live and learn during this pandemic. Some of the initiative teaching and learning tools and delivery systems schools and teachers experimented with in response to the crisis may have a long-lasting impact on the education system. And on the other hand, evidence shows that every week of school closure implies a loss in the development of human capital with significant long-term economic and social implication. So this pandemic actually challenged us, especially me, I've experienced it kasi nga I took my third course, the Bachelor of Science in Social Work. And, it is really challenging kasi apart from we have this unreliable internet connection, no, and we have youth and children away or yung sa mga far-flung areas na walang internet connectivity, walang decent na internet connections. And yung sa yung sa modular naman, hindi naman siya ganun ka accessible. In fact, may mga nakita tayong posts sa social medias na may mga ibang modules na mali-mali, that really affects, that really impacted the development of our young people, including our children. So despite the flexible and commitment shows by the school, the government, and other agencies, and also the teachers in securing educational continuity during school closures, not all students have been able to consistently access education. Like I mentioned earlier, isa dyan is yung internet connection, gadget availability, and yung learning modalities. Not all children, not all youth have their families with them who could, help them discuss the modules that they get from the teachers. Tayo nga, like I personally would like to confess, no, tayo nga, isang taon natin dinadala yung mga libro na pinapahiram sa atin sa school. Hindi nga natin siya talagang maiintindihan, not unless the teacher will discuss it to us. How much more those families, those children na medyo challenged din si parents, in teaching their children, that really affects them. More important, a digital divide in connectivity and access to electronic devices risk further amplifying inequities among young people during the pandemic. For instances, students from less well-off families are most likely to have access to digital learning resources and parental support from home learning. Like yung sinabi ko kanina na nga, na not all have access to internet, not all have these resources sa gadgets, in using their learning, and that really affects really much our development, on our young people's development. And then more than 1 in 10, 15 years old from socioeconomically disadvantaged schools do not have quiet places. So yung iba na nga may mga kahul ng aso, may mga tuktugaok ng manok, may mga nagpapanday, mga ganun, on the background noises, do not have quiet places to study at home, nor an internet connection that could sustain their needs, no? And in 5 do not have access to computer for schoolwork. Kasi kailangan natin mag-type, kailangan natin mag-research and all of that. So that really challenged our young people during this pandemic. About around 3.3 million students are still missing or have yet to enroll weeks before the formal school opening on October 5. So ang dami pang hindi nakapag-enroll even before or on or before October 5 yung formal opening ng DepEd sa classes. And the latest enrollment data from the Department of Education released Thursday after October 5th showed na ang dami talagang hindi pa nakakapag-enroll. So dito na tayo ngayon sa youth development during pandemic. With all the issues, concerns that our young people experience, like the mental health, employment, income, and education. Where does the youth comes in? So saan tayo mga kabataan papasok? And I hope everyone will take note of this point onward, kasi na nga this will guide you through your initiatives, through your participation, not just in your personal development but in helping the entire community. So I hope you guys will listen to this one. So the COVID-19 crisis has proven that youth workers, youth organization, as well as non-organized youth can be a partner in providing support to the people's well-being, especially for vulnerable groups and for people that are unlikely to be aware of relevant government services and support. It is also critical for governments to capture, retain, and build on current youth mobilization to strengthen society's resilience and readiness for future shocks amidst this very challenging time. So the National Youth Volunteering Programs, I just like to also share to everyone na I am a member of I am the Mindanao Deputy Coordinator of the National Youth Volunteers Council. There are a lot of strategies, including the government and non-government organizations, strategies that allocate clear responsibilities of our young people, providing capability building opportunities for the youth. So andun na yung mga webinars natin like this one, you can search on internet, on Facebook. You can even visit our National Youth Commission page on social media on Facebook, and check from time to time kung ano yung mga webinars, ano yung mga capability building and enhancement or opportunities na gaganapin, and then you can take advantage on that. You can register on that kasi that will help you develop your skills, not just in listening but skills in communicating with other people. Apart from that, of course, will build your confidence in future time, in joining activities like this one. In fact, many youth organizations and youth serving organization conducted and is continually conducting youth opportunities for the youth through webinars and online certifications. So ayun na nga yung mga sinabi ko kanina. Although many youth are not able to join webinars like this one or online opportunities due to the access of internet or availability of resources. But the LGUs, youth organization and youth serving organizations, especially in Davao City, are doing their best in reaching out to the most needy community for the communities volunteering works and initiative. And I'm very, very happy no na ang dami nating mga youth leaders, especially yung mga SK officials natin dito sa Davao City, and I'm pretty sure SKs natin sa Philippines, that they're really doing their best in providing in reaching out to our young people in the community, and of course in providing activities, programs, initiatives, in continually providing development, providing assistance to our young people. So I salute and I admired the commendable effort of our SK officials and the general, including our non-government organizations, in continually providing effort or doing extra effort in providing developmental programs to our young people. No, in fact, most of the volunteers we have during this pandemic are actually coming from the youth sectors. And like I mentioned earlier, the kabataan from the Sangguniang Kabataan from every LGUs are doing their best in providing necessary intervention to their constituents. And of course, our office, kung saan po ako employed, our office, the City Social Welfare and Development Office, is continually doing its best in providing opportunities for our youth. Though we, like the so-called LYDC, ayun na nga, since we're struggling on our the establishing of the Local Youth Development Council in Davao City, but the programs and initiatives of our office, the City Social Welfare and Development Office, is continually providing opportunities. In fact, noong October 10, we actually conducted the mental health awareness in response to global goals, me and other organizations, the Rotaract and other organizations. I have Alstar with me, who is one of our reactor this afternoon. Nagkanda kami ng mental health awareness through webinars. And I'm also encouraging everyone, no, especially our youth sangguniang leaders, in conducting such activities that will help our young people in their development during this pandemic. So 5 things people can do or young people can do to join the global fight amidst this COVID-19 and our responses. First, it says here that young people can provide behavioral insights and peer-to-peer training or help on the impacts of the pandemic on communities and young people in the region. So may mga kakilala tayo, may mga friends tayo ng mga pinagdadaanan, may mga mental health concerns or issues na pinagdadaanan during this pandemic. So we can actually maximize that. We can chat our friends, we can contact our friends, pwede natin sila i-text or i-chat na, "Uy, how are you doing? Kamusta ka?" By simply doing that, that will help you or help the others in providing behavior insights. Just by just talking to them, by just sharing your personal experience, concerns during the pandemic, that will help you ease whatever you are feeling at the moment. So I hope everyone will do this one, no, na they could talk to their peers and just have a quick chit chat about how they are feeling at the moment, para then ma-release nila yung mga stress, depression, or anxieties, or mga what ifs na meron sila, at the moment. So second one is young people use their digital literacy skills to fact check and share valuable information to their peers and to the community. So tayo kasi very techy tayo mga kabataan. Very techy tayo, and I hope everyone will use this particular skills in checking first. I-check muna natin yung mga information na nakita natin or nababalitaan natin through social medias. If it's true, we can contact our SK officials or barangays, or if you know someone from the Department of Health or city health offices, then you can double check with them if this particular information is true before you share it with others. Kasi nga through sharing, lalo pat hindi siya tama, hindi siya totoo, that will mislead our young people's mind, and that will definitely cause chaos at the end of the day. So make it so sure na to check muna the information before you share it to the community. The third one is young people are disruptive, innovative thinkers. So very resourceful tayo. Ayun na nga yung pinaka fifth na, on the fourth. Young people are resilient and resourceful. So ang dami nating tawag nito, ang dami nating isip, no. Marami tayong naiisip, marami tayong initiatives during this pandemic. That really help not just our family, not just our community, but of course ourselves as well. May mga iba akong kakilala na nagkakandak ng mga webinars or ng mga consultations online, just talking, and that itself contributes to the development of our young people. So the last one is, ito yung pinaka-importante, ito yung pinaka-i-highlight ko, no. Ito yung pinaka-highlight ko na sana gawin ng mga kabataan and to our participants as of this current, is to collaborate to our LGUs, collaborate with government and government organizations, non-government organizations in providing or coming up with an initiatives to help our young people, no. So this one, kasi it says here that young people are naturally collaborators. So let's collaborate, let's work hand in hand with our LGUs, with our SP officials sa kanya-kanya nating barangay in fighting against this COVID-19. So before I'll end this discussion, I hope everyone able to get learnings, or I hope no na may mga natutunan kayo on the slides that I presented. Just make it so sure na ano man yung mga ano man yung pinagdadaanan nyo at the moment, you have your family with you. Talk to your family. You have your friends that you can talk to, and above all, you have God. You have the Lord to guide you with your current situation. And before I end my slides, before I end my discussion, I just like to leave you with this Bible verse, Romani 31 verse 8. It says here that the Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So, laban lang, laban lang tayo mga kabataan kasi nga we are naturally resilient and resourceful. So, let's maximize our youthful initiatives in helping ourselves and also community. Let's fight this pandemic, despite the tumultuous landscape, despite this very challenging time of our life. Um, let's work hand in hand together, and above all, God above all in doing this one. So ayun na po, magandang hapon, good afternoon everyone. Thank you for listening, and mabuhay po tayo mga kabataan. Daghang salamat.
Thank you also, Mr. Christmas. And as a short takeaway from your talk, the COVID-19 pandemic is really a major health crisis affecting several nations that has caused significant disruption in the lives of millions of people, including children and adolescents. Such widespread outbreaks are associated with adverse mental health consequences. So the closure of schools truly affects a student's health mental well-being as well as the teachers. So mental health awareness is really important to ensure a good mental well-being of individuals such as students. So also, educational professionals also play an important role in helping detect and report abuses against children. Once again, sir, we really thank you, sir, for your talk, and thank you for sharing a wonderful insight to us. So now let's proceed to the next talk. Our second speaker is a seasoned development worker with a degree of BS Development Communication from the University of Philippines, Los Baños, and a Master's of Development Administration from the University of Southeastern Philippines. She teaches the subject Development Communication to graduate students under the Masters of Extension Education in USEP. Her current involvements are on the promotion of adolescent healthy behaviors and prevention of unintended teenage pregnancies and gender-based violence, especially in this time of COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, our second speaker, Ms. Lucille Dagpin-Galicha, the Social Behavior Change and Gender Officer.
Yes, good afternoon everyone. Mayong hapon sa tanan. And I'm very honored to be invited to speak in this forum. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So once more, thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to share to everyone. And my topic is in support of the theme, the impact of the pandemic to local youth development. So I dare say that youth arise or kabataan bangon. And I argue that the youth have that amazing resilience to rise amidst all these challenges in the new normal. It's because, right, yeah, we have been talking about the disruption that COVID-19 has done to all of our lives, especially to our youth. And yes, as mentioned by the Johns Hopkins Center for Adolescent Health, the children and also our adolescents, they appear to be less at risk for severe COVID-19 symptoms. However, it may be that because they are young and still have stronger immune system, but it doesn't mean that they don't ever get infected. But the pandemic has changed our way of life, and there's a lot of social or physical distancing and other interruptions of what we were used to. And school experience is not the same anymore, and this can be very challenging to our students and also to the parents as well. And yes, mental health and well being concerns, we've been talking about it. And even if we are digitally connected with all forms of social media and other digital platforms, there's an increasing sense of loneliness and isolation. So these disruptions create several levels of pressure to the mental and emotional state and may be addressed by positive or negative coping mechanisms. So earlier, our discussant mentioned the quarantine things that made our youth busy, kahit ako din. So it could be a positive coping mechanism, could be about relaxation or self-care, o naging tending to our gardens and to our plants, or cooking, or some even engage in online selling. But there are also negative coping mechanisms. Some included drinking intoxicating beverages, uh, or getting into vices, or some have withdrawn, while some also have spent too much time on the internet. So these kinds of things, or anything that's too much, will impact negatively on the mental health, well-being, and well-being of our youth. So actually, these behaviors of our youth are included in the insights that we have gathered in the human-centered design, or it's the HCD process we did in 2019 for the project. So this is the time adolescents, this is supposedly the time that they experience a high degree of emotional vulnerability, which can lead them to engage in unhealthy relationships or risky sexual behavior. So that's one form of negative coping mechanism. And another insight also, because our adolescents are sometimes, not only sometimes, most often are present on what is now. So they are present focused and live in the moment. So making it difficult for them to evaluate how day-to-day life decisions connect them to their future goals. So meron silang saying na YOLO, or you only live once. So feeling nila malakas sila, very able-bodied, and may think hindi sila magkakasakit. Kaya lang, baka lang hindi nila kayang tingnan yung far beyond other than what is now. So, maraming several degrees of impact on the lives of our youth. And by the way, yung HCD, or Human-Centered Design pala, na proseso na ginawa is we consider yung human perspectives throughout the design process, and usually it's used to address yung complex challenges such as yung prevention sana ng unintended pregnancies, na marami din dito sa Davao City. It's also rising. And of course, during the time of pandemic, naging parang social emergency yung dumadami or tumataas daw na cases of teenage pregnancy. So we hope na with that kind of process, we focus on identifying the solutions that address the user needs. So in this case, for our adolescents. We also mentioned that yes, since we are the youth are, and we are confined in our homes, so there's the lack of safe space. And this is also very common, yung mga recreational spaces, basketballan ba yan, or youth camps or playing fields as mentioned earlier, wala na yun. Nawala na yung opportunity for them to interact with each other. So, lahat ng ito, of course, may impact sa sinasabi na youth developmental pathways, na wala na yung opportunity na yon na makapag interact with each other and learn how to be with other people. So it's also very sad that a lot of issues are also challenging family environments as well. If they're, especially if they're living in the same confined space with their abusers, or the home does not represent comfort and security anymore. So we know there's a lot of instances na even yung sunog na sinaing at nagagalit na kung sino man yung namamalo dyan. So it's already a cause for violence. And other than that, many of our youth usually also turn to their gadgets or to the social media, And usually then, it's also one of the HCD insight that the youth usually turn to their gadgets or to the social media kasi ito yung gateway to fast-paced or hypersexualized pace. Ang daming makikita doon kung ano-ano. Where adolescents find ready access to information. So it's good if they can find good role models and other ways to find relationships. That is, they seek relationships outside the home if they could not find supportive and enabling relationships within the home. And also, adolescents trust friends. No, nakita rin na itong mga kabataan natin, especially, they look towards sino ba yung more experienced daw na mga friends. So, they are their preferred sources of sexual and reproductive health information instead of going to our health workers kasi ngayon nahirapan na nga sila mag-access. Before, mahirap. Ngayon, mas naging mahirap. Kaya we have put in place kahit papano mga online platforms that our adolescents could also access. I hope you have visited also the Teen Talk Davao. So hanapin nyo yan sa Facebook for Davao City, the Teen Talk Davao. And yes, when you say more experienced friends, it really depends on how or what kind of experience are they talking about. Is it about sexual experience or on some other life experiences with positive or negative messages? And then yes, it's also about going jobless. Nagkakaroon ng effect sa kanilang income. So ability to purchase goods and services. So a lot of them, sabi pa nga dito sa CNN ito na news, and as reported also by the Asian Development Bank and the ILO, marami talaga si kanilang nawalan ng trabaho, and usually yung mga youth, sila yung first option for layoff. Bakit? Because usually they lack the experience or they even lack the clout, no? And in many businesses, they have this practice of last in and first out. And moreover, those who are not yet working will be very much affected too habang kinukompleto nila yung kanilang studies. And under the distance learning mode, malamang hindi na rin sila makapag-transition to the workforce kasi hindi sila makapag-avail ng internships kasi tinigil na rin yung mga internships. Yung mga hotels nga, wala. Yung mga service sector, nawawala na sila. So, at the rate that these are going, they are the ones who lose this work faster than the adults. However, we will still try to find the silver lining, no? The youth keep themselves busy. So, maraming mga quarantines that they were involved in. So, well, they're doing hopefully, tumutulong sila sa mga household chores, studying or working at home. Ito nga, surfing the internet, among others. But still, yes, they worry about their family's needs. Actually, itong U report na ayan, itong U report na nakasulat din dito, this was led by the UNICEF, and you can find it. It's a social messaging tool na free anywhere around the world where the youth can speak on development issues about child rights, or they can also promote their youth agenda and help improve the communities and hopefully foster positive change. So itong nakasulat dito na survey results are in BARM. So in BARM area, they also experience these things. All right, so how are youth going to rise up to these challenges? In this new normal, the youth resilience continues to amaze us in many ways amidst all these challenges. So, for example, an example na makikita natin na talagang very resilient at saka naghahanap ng paraan ng ating mga kabataan. So an example of this is nagkaroon pala ng 18th Search for 10 Accomplished Youth Organizations Award. So habang nagsisearch ako sa net, I found out this one. So this Tayo Awards, it garnered 853 entries from July to August 21 this year. So in about a month and a half, they were able to gather that much entries from all over the Philippines. And itong mga finalists na ito, it's worth noting na five of this, yan, makita nyo dyan, it's highlighted. Five of these come from Mindanao. So, congratulations sa taga Mindanao. There's of these organizations that were selected. And if you have the time to visit, if they have websites or social media pages, we can try to look into them and be inspired and malaman natin yung mga stories nila, anong ginawa nila to help other peoples, groups of people, and how were they able to come up with these amazing ideas during this high pressure time. Yeah, very high pressure. And aside from that also, I'm going to share with you na we also did our own, we also initiated our own in August, a free online social media card workshop. Yan po ang Sining Eskwela. It's open for all Filipinos, youth age 10 to 19 years old. So, ang aim po nito is sana na-empower yung ating adolescents to promote their vital role in their own development as well as in their communities. So, online activity po ito na sana yung mga adolescents natin through art, they are able to make sense of their current experience and increase awareness of issues related to adolescent health by providing an avenue for self-expression. So amazingly, more than 100 entries representing 15 regions in the country joined this online event. So it's also the first time that we did this. So yung mga outputs nila, it showcases their experience and action-oriented solutions sa iba-ibang mga issues na kinakaharap nila. At makikita nyo rin kung yung kanilang mga output, makikita nyo dito sa virtual gallery na andyan po yung link that you can visit so that you can also appreciate what they have done. And also, aside from this, marami din sa ating mga young people na nagpa-participate also in leading other sexual and reproductive health rights, SRHR initiatives in unprecedented ways. At saka nagkakaroon din ito ng impact sa new learning nila. So, part of this learning is around the issue of gender. Kasi we know that young women and young men have radically different experiences working as advocates of SRHR issues. So, madalas yung mga young women, they experience more harassment, backlash, and insecurity. Yung mga outspoken women, madalas nare-red tag. So, mag-red lips na lang tayo kahit na ma-red tag. So, they do experience these things if they are usually outspoken. And also, they struggle to balance their leadership roles with gender demands on their time and autonomy. For other, also, I'd like to share na in the coming months, hopefully, our adolescents and the youth can look forward to our upcoming digital media activities. So, ngayon pa lang, abangan natin kung anong magiging itsura nito. So, we have this Best I Can Be movement. Another is the So Connected. Ito yung Best I Can Be is showcasing yung resilience and positive character ng Filipino youth. So it's more on an aspirational campaign. And then also the So Connected because we have identified in the HCD Insights na napakalaga ng role ng ating mga parents and their allies. And then also the digital resource. So this could be a website na kung saan yung ating mga parents, our allies, our teachers could find evidence-based na mga resources that they can use also. So actually in our project areas, are still we can tailor fit also these strategies if they also want to work with us. um, so yun po, later, when we finally launch this, you can find us on social media or YouTube, and we hope that by liking, clicking, and sharing this among yourselves, you can also influence other youth and one another and be part of the ongoing discussion on how our adolescents and the youth can be part of the solution. And right now, recently, this week, we also have this It's Okay to Delay campaign. So finally, this is out. So makita nyo dyan is, well, it's not really for the very young people, pero youth pa rin, di ba? Kasi maraming ang maagang nag-asawa. But maybe meron pa kayong mga life goals na gusto nyong abutin, or sana pagkatapos ng pandemic makapag-travel, no? Mga travel goals. Pero wala pa naman sana silang balak magka-baby. So, you can try to visit this site. It's okay to delay. So, ano yung plano nyo? Hanapin nyo ang tamang panahon. So, hindi ka nag-iisa, best. Alright? So, visit this social media campaign. And then, ito, The Blind Side. Si Sir Jeff kanina meron siya yung sharing about a movie. I also have mine. And we know na black carbon. May napanood kasi ako early this morning about carbon. And this carbon is transformed into precious and very tough diamonds if subjected to heat and pressure. So, di ba ngayon, this is a time of so much pressure for everyone, and so with our youth. But mind you, tayong lahat, we are all carbon-based life forms. Tayo, ourselves. So, we can be the diamonds in the rough. Just like yung mga bida dito sa movie, no? The bida, ito si Michael, and si Sandra Bullock is Leanne. So The Blind Side, this is a top grossing 2009 film. So ito si, well, panoorin nyo na lang kaya. Napakalaking tao niya. He has a very difficult childhood, pero natulungan siya. There was a way na he was accepted and supported and pushed na transform siya into one of the best players sa football, no? Pinag-agawan na nga siya later on kasi magaling pala siya talaga. So the movie only shows that people may never know what they're capable of doing, of becoming better persons, able to help themselves and others as well, unless a difficult opportunity presents itself. But with much hope of a better tomorrow, we can open our eyes, learn from the past, and trust that the world is still a good place if good people do something good. And it's just like how we view the plight of our every youth. So many of them maybe are just misunderstood and their capabilities haven't been explored yet, or um, even themselves haven't discovered yet the wonderful and amazing things that they are capable of doing. So, youth will rise above these challenges. So, ano bang pwedeng gawin ng ating mga kabataan? And I believe after all this very unusual and uncertain at saka very demanding na mga panahon, our youth will rise above all these challenges. And somehow there are mechanisms already in place or being developed to help them. And we can still further improve on what is available, no? So in the development sector, um, kung saan din ako nagtatrabaho, we are working closely with our government agencies, the LGUs, the private sector, and other partners because we know we cannot do this alone or by ourselves. Very crucial din dito yung mga youth's willingness. Kung gusto nyo ba to also work on helping yourselves become part of the solution. Solution. So for instance, ayan, yung mga anak ko kasi, they have this game about asking question, yung would you rather, no? And the choices could be easy, funny, or sometimes thought-provoking. So now I also ask you, would you rather? So, would you rather be part of the solution or be part of the problem? Would you rather risk yourself getting infected, or would you rather risk yourself of testing the rules? Yung, mapriso jud ka ako, madakpan ka ako. Sige, testing eh. But I hope, no? I hope our youth will heed these few reminders so you can avoid contracting COVID-19. Sa testingan nimo, mamatay ka ako. Ayaw na lang. So sana iwasan muna ang paglabas kung hindi naman kailangan. So pagpuyo, stay at home. And while at home, you can continue helping in the household chores, like cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched surfaces. You can enrich yourselves also by reading, diligently doing your online or modular schoolwork para walang missing na nagpula-pula, or engage in recreation at home like playing board games, hindi lang puro online games or gadgets, but we have to connect also with our family. And however, yes, many of our youth turn to the internet and social media, but sometimes our youth may even fall prey to many other predators. Oh, it's scary. So, parang two other nights, yun. Some nights ago, I was introduced by my 10-year-old kid about this term maps. So this has nothing to do with geography or navigation. So siya pa yung nasabi sa akin, ano to? So it means minor attracted person. So it's a term used by pedophiles in their attempt to normalize their deplorable attraction to children. And of course, this certainly and definitely is not acceptable. And sana tayo ay maging solusyon. Be the solution. So, well, we have this campaign of BIDA, no? B, ayan na po. B, bawal walang mask. E, isanitize mga kamay. D, dumistansya ng at least 1 metro. A, alamin ang totoong impormasyon. Because the youth have a crucial and important role of doing this very simple yet effective infection prevention and control measures if done properly. And also very important is the role in spreading correct information since mahilig naman sila mag-share and hopefully be the vanguards of correct information. So check your sources if these are reliable. Discern and cross-check also from reliable sources before sharing. So hindi yung sa kung sino-sino lang nakakilala, no? So be responsible netizens. So yesterday, here in Davao City, merong na-release na bagong guideline on liquor ban once more. Nagawa na ito before, sa ngayon, andito na naman because yung Davaoenos failed to self-regulate. Ouch! So this Monday lang nailabas yung EO 57 na nag-a-announce ng mga bagong curfew regulations up to the end of the year. So, ano sana, yung local regulation sana, these were gradually eased up from July to September paunti-unti. Kasi gusto rin sana natin ma-revive yung ating economy. But now, dumami talaga. There's a surge in the number of new COVID cases and this is the highest in Mindanao. So sad. And then, ayun, as of yesterday, 5 p.m., may bagong 99 new cases of COVID in the region and 76 of which are in Davao City. And ayun, we have breached the 5,000 mark in the total number of active cases. Naging case pala ng COVID. Ang active case right now is nasa 1,133. So dahil dito, ito nga, for failing to self-regulate, we now have stricter measures and cases have gone up. So my questions are, do we set ourselves up for failure? Or should we become part of the solution? Ano kaya ang kaya nating gawin para maging bahagi ng solusyon at hindi parte ng problema? Can we challenge ourselves to be the solution? So, be the solution. And then, even small things and gestures can add up. No? They can add up if more of us do our own part towards the solution. For instance, You can be a bida patroller at maging mapanuri at mapagmatyag laban sa kontrabida. So ano ang kontrabida? Ang COVID. So we can encourage a family, a barangay, or organization in your community to do the bida actions, yung four behaviors. So very simple lang yun if done properly, if para po maiwasan yung infection. At sa ngayong panahon ng pandemya, you can be the bida solution sa COVID-19. And also, we have talked about safe space earlier, no? So we also launched very recently this digital campaign on Familigtas PH. So please find us on Facebook about gender-based violence prevention. Dahil sa hirap ng pinagdadaanan natin ngayon dahil sa pandemic, normal lang na yun, anxious, nagalit, pagod, maging malungkot or paghinaan ng loob. Pero sana hindi normal kung sinasaktan ka sa bahay nyo dahil problemado ang kung sino man yun. Dahil that's already gender-based violence. At saka itong GBV, hindi lang sa babae din nangyayari. Pwede maging bakla, tomboy, or the members of the LGBT community, lalaki or iba pang kasarian, nakakaranas din ng GBV. At saka dahil sa community quarantine, mas tumataas ngayon ang kaso ng mga karahasan sa loob ng ating tahanan. So I hope we can protect each other. So gawing family-ligtas ang pamilya, and we also have hotline numbers. You can see it here, ang hotline numbers. Dahil tayo po ay magkakampi laban sa GBV. We have PNP, we have DSWD and POPCOM also. Please find them in your local networks or in your local areas. Meron po. And then lastly, at this point, thank you sa inyong lahat. Thank you din Sir Jeff and Sentrong Apila for your time and for listening and for allowing me to share. We look forward to the time where we can freely travel and enjoy our surroundings once more. So it has been said that because of this pandemic, the earth was able to recharge itself, no? So I hope this pandemic also taught us lessons on resilience and rising up to the challenges. Ug sa tanan natong kabatanunan, akong hagit kaninyo, no, my challenge to all of you, bangon, pag-asa ng bayan, bangon, ang paglaom sa atong nasod. And once more, daghang salamat sa inyong pagpaminaw.
Thank you, Ma'am Galicia. True enough, we have to understand that in addressing the impact of the pandemic, it's not just limited to containing the virus or stabilizing the economy. It also extends into taking a look at the mental health and well-being of the people in our community, especially the youth who are more susceptible with mental health challenges. I hope that we respond to these challenges by checking on our younger siblings, brothers and sisters, and then our friends as well. Bangon, pag-asa ng bayan. Thank you once again, Ms. Galicia. I personally have picked up a lot of lessons to ponder through your discussion.
We also invited a panel of reactors, each representing different sectors of the community. The invited reactors will be talking about the challenges that they are confronted with in the context of the pandemic. Each reactor will be given 5 to 10 minutes for their talk.
For our first reactor, she is a graduate of Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in English at University of Mindanao class of 2018, and graduated as cum laude. She is a licensed professional teacher and is currently teaching senior high school students. She is the SK chairperson of Barangay 21-C and the vice president of SK Federation Davao. We have Miss Angel Lim Dayola. Ma'am Angel.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, you're Audible po. Yes po, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. I really don't know where to start, but I would like to congratulate first the two speakers because what you call that? They really their talk is really on context and really irrelevant right now and very timely, especially to the youth. All I can say is that from the first discussant, Mr. Crismas, sir, I know you in person and your topic is very what you call that? Yung context ng topic mo is very wide siya, no? And it's very nice na nagbigay ka ng mga points in every situation na sa mga context na ginaput mo. Like, katong question na imuhang i-raise na, greatest concerns of the youth during this pandemic. Actually, one of the first reason talaga na meron tayo ngayon, sa ako lang ha, na nakita is ang kining learning modality. I think that's the main problem that we have and the youth is now facing because of the kanang pag-eskwela nila, mag-isod sila unsaon jud pagsulod sa eskwela o connected sa second discussion katong sa mga employment rate, sa mga youth sectors na mga tanggal sila, malay off sila because kung kinsa ang first ang bago lang isulod mao ang una na magawas. Tapos katong kay Ma'am Lucille pod, it's very kanang relevant ang iyang ginaingon nga lisod makakita karon pod og safe spaces especially sa mga tao nga naagit pirmi sa gawas. Ug ang uban man pud ko dili nato maiwasan nga they cannot find really home kung asa sila nagpuyo. Place lang siya to stay, but really not home. Kanang they tend to get outside, mugawas sila because feel nila kung nasa sa gawas mas safe sila, dili nila feel sa sulod sa balay. Now, in connection with Sir Emman's katong ayang discussion, naa dito naka-include tong sa how are we going to join the global pandemic dito I think nato siya sa bulat number 1 ni Sir Emman nakabutang dito na we also need to have the peer-to-peer training, which is related pod kay Ma'am Lucille na ginaingon niya na in times of dili na to feel ang tao nga nasusulod sa itong mga balay, kailangan nato someone na makatalk na to. And I think ang isa sa mga nato na makastorya kay kanang mga friends nato, kanang kailangan nato mag-reach out sa ilaha, like unsa ba kanang natay mga problem, makastoryahan dayon nato. Kay sometimes if we're going to isolate ourselves, dili man gud siya lalim, lain natong mahuna-hunaan, like makahuna-huna na tagdili maayo. Dito na mosulod ato ang mga mental health. Wala na ta kabalo na ay kanang dili na ta aware sa to ang ginabuhat, dili na ta aware sa to ang mga ginaisip because kanang wala na ta kabalo, wala tay matok, wala tay makaistorya kay dili man ako feel kung unsa ang nasusulod sa atong balay. So mas better jud if naatay someone na ato ang ma-chat. Dili pud someone na uyab ha, dili pud ingon ana diretso. But someone na kanang maka-chat nato, maka-lean on nato nga kanang friend ba nato na one chat away, one text away, ana. Kung wala ta internet pa di text, uso pa man siguro ang text karon kung wala messenger or unsa ba. And aside from katong problem na katong sa school modality, sa katong wala tay safe sa home, aside from that is katong teenage pregnancy, no? Grabe jud na siya na rate karon. We also have a meeting with SK Federation Davao on holding seminar para sa teenage pregnancy. Kailangan na siya ma-stop. Dili man siya nato ma-stop, di ba, ang teenage pregnancy karon, especially nga ang mga tao kay nara sila ang balay nagapuyo. Pero if magtaas man gud ang rate sa teenage pregnancy, dili pud nato maiwasan nga mag-follow ang uban ng mga problem sa health like kabalo ang HIV and AIDS kay magtaas pud ang rates. Ana gud magsunod man gud na siya, mura siya domino effect ba. If naay mahitabo nga isa ka panghitabo, mosunod na pud ang next, mosunod ang next, daghan kaayo mo follow. So how are we going to help? Mao na siya ang main problem. So we need to be the solution, of course. We don't need to be we don't need to be one of those who make the problem, who stay outside, bisan walay kailangan paliton, mugawas jud kay gusto mugawas, kanang dili gud jud makaantos na mugawas na. Because dili man pud siya lalim, mura siya bisyo nato ba nga putulon. So usahay kailangan jud nato mugawas bisan dili kinahanglan. But unsaon gid ba mao man na ang pinaka-question god, how are we going to be part of the solution? That's the best thing. That's the best question. Unsaon nato? Kailangan ba nato mag-ingon ani? Kailangan ba nato na? How about if we don't have the resources? Paano ta makatabang sa solution if we don't have the resources? How can we reach out to those na naay mga resources? Katulang ang ako ang mga ano na, dili man gud siguro tanan nga naa sila ka ng mga point of views, no? Pero they cannot approach someone or they are afraid to approach someone. That's why kita naata sa LGU or naata sa mga private sectors, we are trying to reach out for those people, but kanang naanjay uban nga dili gusto mo reach out, mao nang lisod manggod, wala ta kabalo unsaon nato. And for my part as SK, willing jud ko no na mutabang dili lang pud sa ako ang barangay, but as a whole jud Davao kung kinsa man ang gusto og manginahanglan og tabang. Kana lang ako ang maingon. For kung kinsa man ang nagbuhat aning organization, Sentrong ano yun, yung Apila Adu, I would like to say thank you so much for this opportunity. Kay I hope no nadaghan pud og mga tao, especially youth sector nga nagtanaw ani, because it's very informative not just for me but for everyone. Kay ang mga nagatalk, mga speakers is very ang ilahang context is kanang ano gid siya, mas makasabot ka, and it's very easy. Kay wala man sila nagatalk English way, kanang nagatalk sila Bisaya, so dali siya masabtan. O comprehensive food siya. I think that will be all. And thank you. Kata lang ako maingon.
Thank you very much for that, and now we also have another actor sharing his experience. He is the charter president of Rotaract Club of Downtown Davao, Tecare College Foundation. Currently, he is also Rotaract District 3860 advisor and the current chief of programs of Filipinas Rotaract MDIO, Mr. Alster Ray L. Tecaro Jr.
Hi, mayong hapon kaninyong tanan. Am I audible? Marinig po ba? Okay, so once again, good afternoon, everyone. And first and foremost, I would like to thank everyone for inviting me as one of the reactors or one of the panel of reactors in this afternoon session about this talk of the impact of this pandemic to the youth. And I would like to commend our two great speakers, Sir Emmanuel from the local youth development of the sa Davao and NYBC, and to Ma'am Lucille. Thank you so much for that very informative and very powerful message to everyone. So I would just like to react on part of their both topic na kasi meron talagang connectivity yung kanilang messages, yung kanilang topic. So I would like to start talaga na ano talaga yung mostly na sabi or nabanggit with this this afternoon about their topics. Of course, the problems that this pandemic gave us. Ano yung mga problema talaga na naibigay ng pandemyang ito. And then we'll talk later about the resources or the things that how are we going to cope up with those problems and challenges. So talagang hindi natin may iwasan ngayon na number one talaga is the mental health issues or the mental health problems. We cannot deny the fact that the started when this pandemic started, nung nagsimula ng pandemya na ito, is tumaas talaga yung mental health issues or mental health problems really in our country and in the world. Kaya nga bigla manggod tayo nag-shift into this quarantine, nag-lockdown, hindi tayo nasanay. Kasi the youth used to go outside, used to go laag with friends, laag maski-asa, magtapok-tapok, mag-inom, mag-celebrate ng party and all. So because of the drastic change, because of the sudden changes that this pandemic gave us, madami ang problema, madami ang naglugmok sa kalungkutan, madami ang nabaon sa kalungkutan. So, meron pang isang mga pangit na bagay talaga na naibigay itong pandemya, which is the unemployment. Madami ang nawalan ng trabaho. At dahil maraming nawalan ng trabaho, nag-close yung mga establishment, madaming naluging mga small businesses, may mga business na nakaka-start pa lang. So paano ba napapasok yung mga youth dito ngayon sa pandemyang ito? Alam natin na ang youth is isa talaga sa biggest population in our country. Isa din ang mga youth sa may mga malaking voice or may bigger voice in our community or in our society. paano ba talaga nagiging effective ang mga youth? So, paano ba tayo talaga? Ano yung role talaga natin as a youth, as a mamamayang Pilipino, as a bata or as a bata sa pandemyang ito, sa kalagitnaan na to? For me, siguro talaga, ang dapat lang natin gawin para maging successful lahat, maging maayos ang lahat, at patuloy talaga nating malabanan ng tama ang COVID is for us to have na pagkakaisa. Magkaroon tayo ng pagkakaisa. Kasi kung wala talaga tayong pagkakaisa, hindi natin ma-achieve yung sinasabi natin na flatten the curve or talunin at pugsain ang COVID-19. Kasi sa simple pa lang na mga ipinapalabas ng mga executive orders ng ating syudad, ni Mayor Inday Sara, hindi talaga nafa-follow. Alam natin na may mga kabataan pa rin talaga or mga mamamayang Pilipino talaga na hindi natin maiwasan na hindi sumusunod sa mga simpleng guidelines na ibinibigay sa atin. For example, yung hindi paglabas kung hindi necessary, yung hindi pagsuot ng face shield or face mask. So ano ba yung dapat natin gawin is to do that simple things na para mas maka-help talaga sa atin. And yeah, tama na mention din kanina ni Sir Emma na ano ba yung mga things that we can use or we can do for us to fight this COVID, to fight this mental health problems para ma-lessen the number, or kung paano natin malalabanan yung boredom. Syempre, we have these things na na-mention, yung mga quarantines, TikTok, sumali sa Davao Barter, makipag-usap kung kani-kanino. And I'm pretty sure most of us here really joined the Davao Barter community and I am proud of it. I am one of them. And ngayon, natututo na rin sumali as part of the plantitos and plantitas. Kasi we all know that the plants talaga make us happy, every morning pagising mo na, wow, these plants are good in waking you up. Pagising mo, ito yung nakikita mo, yung itsura mo, na-freshen up. Kasi nakikita mo kagad is the greeneries, the nature of what God gave us talaga sa kagandahan ng kalikasan. And ito yan, 5 things lang din talaga for us to become a successful youth or maging matulungin or maging maganda at maging effective na mamamayang Pilipino or maging effective na youth is for us to gamitin natin yung pagiging innovative natin. Yung magiging maisipin natin, kung tayo nga nagkakaroon ng jowa or nanguyap ta or manguyap ta og jowa, baka unahon na tayong mga bagay nga hindi natin ginagawa before. Like for example, hindi ka naging makata, hindi ka magaling gumawa ng kanta or ng tula, but because of the love or dahil because of the gugma or the crush na naaka, natuto ka biglang tumula. O di ba nauso nung during the lockdown, nauso yung pagiging makata, natuto kang gumawa ng mga tula, and mga kumbaga nauso talaga yung spoken poetry. So with that, the mental health, the mental problem, the mental issues is lessened. Talagang ito lang yan. Tayo para maging malakas tayo sa sarili natin. Isipin natin yung mga bagay na alam natin kung saan tayo magaling at kung saan tayo magiging masaya. 'Di ba? Aren't we all na isipin na ang gusto lang natin talaga is maging masaya sa gitna ng pandemya? Tama? 'Di ba? So anong dapat natin gawin? Totoo na ang maraming problema ngayon ang nag-a-arise. Madaming problema ang ibinabato sa atin at ibinibigay ng pandemyang ito. Pero ba ano pa talaga ang dapat natin gawing solusyon ito? Ang dapat lang talaga natin gawing solusyon para mahinto itong pandemyang ito, una, gawin natin lahat ng ibinibigay sa atin or ipinapagawa sa atin ng government. Ano yung pinapagawa sa atin ng Department of Health? And kung ano yung ibinibigay sa atin ng mga utos sa ating local units. And of course, be happy and gawin lang natin kung ano talaga yung makapagpapasaya sa atin. And gusto ko lang din bigyan talaga na point yung sinabi ni Ma'am Lucille kanina na talaga itong pandemya, tinanggal din yung opportunity sa atin na mas maging masaya, especially sa mga kabataan. In what way? Na-mention din kayo ni Sir Emma na every summer nagkakaroon ng mga youth camp, nagkakaroon ng mga basketball clinic, volleyball clinic, drama clinic, dance club, and all and so on and so forth. But because of this pandemic, yung mga kabataan, yung mga youth, nawalan talaga ng karapatang maging masaya for a moment. But lahat ng ito is panandalian lang. Paano tayo ngayon tutungo sa mas magandang future o mas magandang kinabukasan kung ito lahat is ipoproblemahin lang natin? Problema lang yan. Daanan lang natin to, huwag nating tambayan. Kasi kung tatambayan natin to, walang mangyayari sa atin, hindi natin ma-achieve yung mga dapat nating ma-achieve. Tama na hindi lahat may resources, tama hindi lahat can afford to do things na gusto nilang gawin. But kung magiging resourceful tayo, kung magiging resilient tayo sa lahat ng ginagawa natin, ma-achieve natin lahat ng gusto nating mangyari in this time of pandemic. And before I close my my talk or my reaction about this, I would just like to this effect of this pandemic talaga are already taking a devastating toll on millions of people. Kaya huwag kang mawawala ng pag-asa. Hindi lang ikaw, hindi lang ako, hindi lang tayo, but ang buong mundo ang namomroblema sa panahong ito. Kaya ikaw, bilang batang Pilipino, bilang batang Dabawenyo at bilang youth ng Pilipinas, isipin mo kung ano talaga ang purpose mo sa panahong ito. Ikaw ba ay parte ng problema o ikaw ba ang parte ng solusyon? Mag-isip, makialam, at makibahagi. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Sir Alster, for your fruitful discussion. And thank you once again to all our reactors for such insightful message. We are very thankful to have your presence. Now we have come to the part where we raise our questions to the discussants and our panel of reactors in an open forum. Our viewers from Facebook Live will also be given the chance to raise their questions through the comment section. For a smooth flow of discussion, you may mention the speaker that you want to address your question with.
Allow us to read the guidelines for the open forum. Number 1, the open forum will only last for 30 minutes. There are 3 different modes to raise your questions. First, our Zoom video conference room has a question and answer button. Participants can type their questions directly and discussant can answer there as well. Second, the questions from the Facebook Live will also be catered. The moderators will address it in the conference and allow the discussant to answer. Third, if there are any follow-up questions and if time permits, we can still accommodate it. Please send your full name and your organization in the chat stream. And lastly, please ensure cooperation for a smooth flow of the open forum.
So while we wait for our participants to prepare their questions, I'd like to say how important the impact of this webinar series is, most especially to the youth, who had a crucial role in the mobilization of the government's action.
Indeed, Dessa, the role of the youth is not just limited into helping the current leaders of our country, but also in influencing the actions of their fellow youth on the ground. And this webinar series recognizes just that.
Thank you so much, Claire. And now we will be waiting for the questions of our participants. So for questions, you may use your question and answer button. Our participants from Facebook can also participate in asking questions to our speakers as well.
So while waiting, we would like to once again acknowledge our participants from different sectors. We have from the academe, private institutions, and non-governmental organizations, international and foreign institutions, and from our governmental institutions. We thank you very much for your support and your tireless participation in this event. And we hope to see you again in the next webinars to come. So while waiting, we would just like to inform everyone that because of the interest of the time, we will only wait for 5 minutes. And if there are no questions, then we will proceed to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Since while we are waiting to some questions, can I ask questions to
two speakers?
Sure,
This
sir.
Okay. So para mas maging interactive tayo. So again, good afternoon, Sir Emmanuel and Ma'am Lucille. Ito lang, just a random question, just a random ano lang for me. How are you coping up with this pandemic? So let's start with Ma'am Lucille. How are you coping up with this pandemic, ma'am?
Of course, I'm a plantita also myself. And baking, of course, I have two kids to attend to. So family life is exciting. It's challenging at the same time. So that's how I cope. I do biking every weekend. So ano ba ang longest ride ko in one day? About 80 kilometers. Diba? Ano yun? Achievement yun wala lang.
Yes po. Yes. Nice to know. For the information of everybody and Ma'am Lucille, I am started biking this pandemic. So the farthest na napuntahan ko is Panabo.
Wow, yes.
Yeah.
I've been there.
And started as a plantito also. And yeah, gusto ko lang din that this pandemic mas binigyan talaga tayo ng chance na mas maging closer to our families. Mas maging tight yung relationship natin between our family members, with our siblings, and with our parents. Mas tumatag yung communication at yung relationship nila. And that's what I heard sa sinabi ni ma'am na mas naging din yung relationship nila sa kanilang family. How about you, Sir Emman? How are you? How are you coping up with this pandemic?
Yes. So this pandemic really affects the lives of many, including mine, kasi I'm a human being. I'm a beautiful human being. Charot. I mean, how am I coping up with this pandemic? Despite the very hectic schedule, busy life, I think talking with family, continually talking to my mom, kasi nga like I said, this pandemic, we might understood pandemic negatively, but it actually causes so many beautiful things in life, apart from it gives us closer or back closer to the environment, kasi nga we learn to plant, we learn to appreciate what the environment, what the nature can give us, mga gulay, mga flowers, and so on. It also actually helps us to reconcile and bond and strengthen our ties in the families. So simply by talking to my mom, to my papa, kasi naging very challenging siya as frontliners, kasi very minimal lang yung time ko with them together, because of course I need to protect them, and because I am engaged in the community, I am in the community most of the time. So I am making it so sure na dili ko directly in contact with them. That's actually the struggle of the frontliners these days. And I'm encouraging everyone, especially our participants, it is really not easy to be the frontliners, kasi apart from nahihinder yung tawag nito, it actually affects our relationship with families, friends, and so on, kasi we cannot bond with them as much as possible. It's also very difficult kasi we have to cope up with our mental issues, mental concerns, mental health aspects, and simply by talking to parents, to friends, checking with friends, how are they at the moment, and joining such activities like this, even organizing an activity for the youth is one of the coping mechanism I had during this pandemic. Fight lang, laban lang tayo, kasi at the end of the day, these are just, kumbaga, ingon pa sa akong lola, ang tanan lumalabay lang. So just make the most out of this experience and discover yourself more, reconcile with yourself, better understanding of who you are, and then, sharing it with others. Sharp, I miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sir Alster, and thank you as well to the answers of our two discussants. We also have another question from Ma'am Roxanne Faye Talamo. What can you suggest in terms of making a productive activities for the youth that would capture their attention and participation during this time of pandemic?
Sige. Ma'am Lucille, let me that's really a wonderful question, to be very honest. Kasi nga, like I said, the youth are, I mean, the generation these days are technically savvy, you know. They are literally magaling sa ano tawag nito sa technology, sa computer. So the things that we do, that I do personally, is to get the interest of the youth. Ano no? Ikaw as participants, or ikaw na magbibigay ng initiatives, ng programs for the youth, get the interest of your audience. And by that then, you will understand, you will know what are the things that you can provide them. Send an example, the recent activity, the recent event that me and Alster actually headed last October 10, 2020. That's during the Mental Health Month. We got the interest of others, or we actually got the interest of the youth to discuss their mental health status. And because of that, ang dami naming nakuha. In fact, we had like more than 100 participants during that time, because it is really timely, no. That's where the interest of the men, of the young people, is coming from. So understand, I mean, tawag nito, discover your craft, you know, understand yourself, and then get the interest of the others, for you to provide um, tawag nito, suitable activities and programs for the youth, for the community.
Thank you very much, sir. So now we have our question from the chat box from Mr. Christian Passion. So he thanked all the speakers for their insightful discussion, and he wants to ask about the state of teenage pregnancy in the region. Pandemic may have exacerbated the teenage pregnancy, especially in rural areas, given mobility and employment are massively constrained. What are your thoughts about this? Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to
Lucille, you
answer
want to talk?
this since our project is also addressing the unintended teenage pregnancy. And of course, Sir Jeff may also add to my answer. Dati pa, no, even kaya nga napili din ang Davao City as one of our project sites, it's because mataas, I think pinakamataas din ang Davao region. And special mention sa Davao City to have the highest number of teenage pregnancy cases. Well, we have the population kasi malaki ang population din dito. And lalo na ngayon na in other areas they have been declaring Zamboanga, also Soxargen have also declared na tumataas na rin talaga. It's becoming a social concern. Emergency, social health emergency as they call it. So the more na ngayon, maraming nalungkot, di ba? Yung normal behavior din, or usual behavior ng mga adolescents. Kasi ang adolescent is a time where ang daming nangyayari sa kanila. And they undergo so much of this vulnerability also. So some, if they could not find this safe environment at home, they may look to other places and find this so-called pagmamahal somewhere. So it's really possible na mas dumami pa, no? And also dahil natatakot sila lumabas, they may not be able to access services in the health centers, and it's admitted na talagang medyo bumaba yung number of people na nag-avail ng mga health services natin. So sana kahit malayo sila, they could try to contact muna. Meron pong Tintok Davao ang city government, ang city health office. They can initially contact, ask question, kasi pwede silang mai-refer kung saan man sila pwedeng pupunta. So I think that's all. I hope I was able to answer your concern.
Yes, very nice.
Okay, so thank you so much, ma'am. I guess there are no more questions. So since we're also constrained by our time, we will be proceeding to the next part of our program. So once again, thank you so much to our participants as well as to our speakers for making this webinar more fruitful and interactive. And now we are nearing the end of this webinar. To give the closing remarks, may we call in the External Vice President of SAMAPULA, Miss Micaela Balagot.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Sentrong Apila and Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and to my beloved academic club, Samahan ng mga Mag-aaral ng Agham Pampulitika na Ateneo, for making this webinar series entitled Youth Responses to the Challenges of the New Normal happen. In these trying times, it's very important that we get to be enlightened and enriched with such learnings about the pandemic and the role of the youth. Second, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to Dr. Stephen Host for his opening message, to Sir Jeff Fuentes for his guidance and help, to our lead discussants, Sir Emmanuel Crismas and Ma'am Lucille Dagpin-Galicha. Indeed, we are now more knowledgeable about the impact of the pandemic to local youth development. To our panel sharers as well, Ma'am Angel Dayola and Sir Alster Tecaro Jr. for their very informative opinions and reactions about the talk today. Lastly, I would like to extend my deepest gratitude and acknowledge the presence of our participants today and to those who are watching the live footage as well. This pandemic has greatly shaped and impacted our lives in so many ways, and we can't deny the fact that this crisis is the reality we live in today. As much as this pandemic has affected us on the bright side, such as we get to know more about ourselves, we get to stay at home and learn new skills, and we get to have our own time of reflection and development, it's not just all about that. This pandemic, aside from it being a health issue, it's also a political, social, and economical issue. Indeed, we do sail on different boats because of our positions, our societal standing, our privileges, but we are just sailing on the same ocean. Yet, as much as this bright side has let us cope and live in comfortability, it doesn't mean that the world is getting better and other people have it better as well. The scope of the COVID-19 problem is an issue of survival, an issue of inequality, an issue of basic access to services, an issue of rights and wages, and an issue of labor and employment. This pandemic also roots itself in poverty, corruption, social injustice, and a lot more. The most vulnerable ones are workers from informal sectors, those who are homeless and jobless, the farmers, those who don't have access to safety nets, teachers, drivers, students whose environments aren't conducive for learning and have problems with their mental health, victims of abuse in their households, business owners, restaurant workers, and frontliners. People are dying, people are getting sick, and we see this on our social media accounts, and we see this on the news as well, and we are gravely aware of what's happening. But is awareness enough? Is being informed enough as well? Is it all right if we leave the status quo as it is? Or are we really questioning enough? With this whole fiasco, it leads us to two kinds of thoughts actually. First, what can I do to help? Second, do I really want to help? And I'll leave that up to you. Right now, the youth sector is actively engaging and participating in so many activities and platforms related to the pandemic. We are seen, heard, and felt everywhere because of this. And because of this, again, we've been getting judgments that we are a bit too much, and oftentimes we are branded as, mga bata pa yan sila, puro salita lang, wala pa silang alam sa hirap ng buhay. And that is the challenge for us, for the youth. That even though we hear these kinds of comments and criticisms, remember that we have the power to shape and help other age groups and other sectors who are misinformed and still ignorant. It's definitely hard to find clarity and a common denominator, especially since we all stem from our own differences. But I personally believe that helping shouldn't be selective. It should be for everyone. And if these people continue to enclose themselves with their biases and prejudices, we leave the choices to them. But remember, learning and knowing are concepts that people can embrace. And as much as this can be very frustrating, their time will come to know better. What's important is that us, the youth, we continue to fight for our rights. We continue to strengthen our advocacies. We continue to express dissent against injustices. We continue to demand accountability and transparency because that is what we truly deserve as citizens of the Philippines. We continue to contribute, we continue to amplify voices, and we continue to empower, to try and rise again. But most importantly, we continue to question the system, the structure, and most of all, ourselves. Even ourselves. We question ourselves. And we must do these things, all of this, not just for the benefit of the youth sector, but for everyone who is involved and affected. As the youth sector, what we do is for the people, by the people, and with the people. No one is excluded from our fight and from our voices. And so, as we close this talk today, I hope you are deeply enriched by the lessons our speakers and reactors have given to us. I hope each of you will bring forth the leader inside of you to realize matters and to set it all out in service and in actualization, but with a heart of empathy and understanding. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Micaela Balagot, for such an inspiring message. We once again thank the participants who joined us today. We thank you for your time and cooperation. We hope that we are able to learn more about the impact of this pandemic and how we can help as a youth to better the situation of our country in these trying times. So, ika nga ni Ma'am Micaela, we have to ask for accountability, or are we asking enough? Set your calendar on November 7 for yet another fruitful discussion. The topic will be the regional economics and youth entrepreneurship with the lead discussants, Ma'am Jonaline T. Marcojos and Sir Christian C. Pasion. Before we end this webinar, we would like to inform you of the following announcements. Number 1, for our webinar this coming November 7, we will be flashing the registration link in your screens. It can also be accessed in the chat box of our Zoom session. And for those who registered for the webinar today, we will be sending the registration link in your email. Number 2, evaluation link will also be emailed to the participants of today's webinar. And number 3, certificate of participation will be distributed via email. This shall only be distributed after the participant has filled up the evaluation form. So need po natin na mag-fill up ng evaluation form.
Today
Okay,
was a very insightful discussion. We hope that this discussion gave you another perspective regarding the impact of this pandemic in youth development. Once again, we are your hosts. I am Christine Claire Tar, the Student Relations Officer of SAMAPULA.
And I am Dasa Caballero, the Assistant Director of SAMAPULA Speakers Bureau. Thank you and see you in the next webinar this coming November 7, still at 1 to 3 in the afternoon. Thank you once again and enjoy the rest of your day.